This podcast is made possible through donations from listeners like you and our partners at Goalie Ashwa Gummies. You can find them at goalie.com. Use promo code The Show Up Dad Foundation to get 10% off your order. Zenderance Active Wellness and Sports Nutrition. Their products are designed to maximize your health. As Zenderance, they strive to support and have a positive impact on the wellness of every hardworking dad. Use my code The Show Up Dad and get 10% off your next purchase. For more info, go to www.zenderance.com. Tall Man Equipment. Standing taller than the rest of the competition in lineman tools since 1952. Give them a follow at www.tallmanequipment.com. And last but not least, Adam Lane Smith. He is an attachment specialist who helps people to heal, connect, and build. Use my promo code SHOW, spelled S-H-O-W, for a 50% discount on his attachment bootcamp course. Thank you. All marriages, even the really good ones, need mending. The routine of jobs, kids, chores, and other commitments can overshadow romance and passion with any husband and wife. As a result, couples can feel disillusioned or even alone. That is why we have created this marriage series, a platform for husbands and wives to come on and share what they do to be successful. Today's guests are Ben and Kayleigh Holmes. Ben has been married 6 years to his wife Kayleigh, and together they have two daughters, Hadleigh, 6 years old, and Leighton, 2 years old. Ben is a journeyman lineman out of Local 66 Houston and has been in the trade for around 11 years. His wife Kayleigh is a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. And together they're on our show. So welcome, guys. We appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you for having us.
What's up?
Ben, man, it's been a while, brother. You're on our podcast on Lineman Chronicles early off when we first started, man. That was awesome, man.
Yeah, I have internet at least this time. When we did that one, I remember I was in Half Moon Bay. It was like wormhole, so that was a struggle. But
well, a lot of things have happened since then, brother. I like for you guys just to open up and talk about how your guys' idea of marriage was, growing up in your own families and stuff like that. What did you guys see?
You can go first.
You want me to start? Okay. I definitely did not have good role models or good any vision of marriage, I guess, when I was growing up. I grew up with alcoholic and drug addict parents who were physically abusive to each other. I saw that and tried to break that up pretty much for as long as I can remember. So I never had a good idea of what marriage was supposed to look like, how you were supposed to treat each other, speak to each other, respect each other. And that, it has definitely carried with me, the good and the bad, through even in our marriage, that I've had to learn quite a bit about myself and how that's affected me and still affects me to this day.
Yeah, I kind of grew up in a similar situation where my dad was an alcoholic and it was like a broken family situation. And I was kind of the youngest in the family, but the family would rely on me to solve things for them. And so it does put a lot of pressure on you as a young girl growing up, trying to learn what you need to know about yourself and discovering who you are. And then if you get into a relationship after that, you can find yourself in a codependent kind of situation, which can be hard. So I can relate to your kind of situation. How about you, Ben? How was your family growing up, and what did you learn about marriage?
Growing up, I had one alcoholic parent, my dad. So I was pretty much raised by my mom, and then I'd see my dad summers here and there and stuff. But so I didn't see much of, I guess, the relationship. It was just always my mom taking care of us, working two jobs, doing whatever she could to get us by. So early on in life, my relationship experience was like way off. It was kind of fly by the seat of my pants on everything, which is kind of how I do everything. Mm-hmm. It works in some situations, but for relationships and obviously a marriage, you can't be like that because I'll get an idea and I'll just run with it. And I'm like, I'm going to do it right now. But, especially with the fun killer here.
The realistic one.
Man, we should get we're not getting a boat. Yeah. We're not getting a boat. I'm like, okay, I guess we're not getting a boat. And, you know, and I was just telling her the other day, you know what's crazy? I could just go buy a boat and come home with it, and you'd either have to divorce me or you'd have to just live with a boat. I mean, what a choice to make, right?
I would sell it.
Right?
Yeah, but us coming from such different like backgrounds, kind of as far as like how we grew up, very similar but very different. My mom was like always there, really good mom, supportive. She still is.
Very.
She actually just flew out earlier. She was here for Christmas, but yeah. So I was just.
We kind of had to start from like the bottom backwards almost to, you know, we had what does a marriage not look like? What is what is a marriage? And I don't want to say fix, but it was at the beginning was just a lot of how do we speak to each other? I have no idea how does a good marriage look? Neither one of us had ever seen that.
Mm-hmm. I always find it interesting that people who come from families of origin that don't have a good example of what marriage is, they still have a desire to get married. Like I see that in myself, my sister, my brother, many of my friends, a lot of people that still did not grow up in a family of origin that had a great example of marriage have the desire to get married, and they want to connect. There still wants to be some kind of life partner situation where you think you can go on and do it better, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, Ben, what you said about being that sporadic guy and stuff like that, you know, I know a lot of guys who are the same way. You know, we kind of just do it. We don't even think about it. We just do, right? Better done than, you know, thinking about it. And with that being said, I know when I did that with my wife, I started to kind of burn her out and cause anxiety.
Oh,
right?
it was rough because he had a drive that was way higher than what my drive was. And he would be like, okay, I think we should do this to the house. What do you want to do there? And I would tell him, and then he would get started on it like right then and there. And I'm like, I'm not ready to do that because I have all these other things that I'm thinking about doing. But then he would pull me away from everything that I was doing so that way I can assist him on the project that he wants to complete in the weekend that he's at home. You know. But it was a lot of, yeah, you definitely burnt me out in some ways because I didn't have the same kind of drive that you do.
But I was trying to make it happen for you. It was all for you.
That drive. So she's the planner. Like we'll go to do something. She's like, come on, let's go. We're 6 minutes late. And, you know, at this time we're doing this. She'll have everything so set up where me, I can plan things in my head. So what comes off as sporadic is actually like thought out. And she's just first hearing about it. So sometimes there's a little bit of a method to like, I guess, our madness, right?
Unless
yeah, for sure.
Go on a trip.
Yeah. I always pack right before we leave.
He doesn't.
That's when I'm the sharpest.
Yeah. Right.
Before we leave for a trip, you know exactly what you need.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, David's definitely a one backpack kind of guy when he goes on a trip. For every trip, it's like, I just need my one backpack. And I'm over here packing big old things for me and the kids. Because, you know, when you have kids, they need extra clothing because they tend to dirty it.
Yeah, I just need a couple pairs of underwear. I'm like, okay, I'll pack your stuff. Don't worry.
I'll wear the same shorts for like.
I got it. I'll just because otherwise you end up with one t-shirt, and we've been there before at a store.
Yeah,
that did happen. Oh, the one time you packed your own bag.
I forgot to pack any shirts. I didn't have anything except for what I wore. I was like,
So now that you guys have been married for a little while, how has your view of marriage changed, of what you believe it should be and what it can be?
I've honestly like kind of modeled like the type of husband I wanted to be off like people around me when I knew that this is at some point what I wanted. When I decided I would like to have a family, I didn't think I was going to, but I knew I wanted one. Mm-hmm. I started looking at people around me, like things they did, how they acted. So I've kind of held on to that, like what kind of dad I wanted to be. I definitely wanted to be like an involved dad. I wanted to know what was going on. And then also as a husband too, like I wanted to participate. I wanted to to go do things that she wants to do. I wanted to be invested in it. I didn't want to be the type that's like, oh, goes to work and like pretends like marriage is like a chore and just like, oh, my old lady. I'm not like that. I'm like excited about being married. I'm excited about being like a parent and a family person. So it's something I constantly like to carry. I mean, I enjoy like having a family and being married and the life that we're living right now. So I try to stay invested and present. Even when I'm not here physically. We talk constantly about good and bad things going on, like with kids, and so just being involved is like my marriage model, I guess.
I always knew I like wanted to be married. I guess I saw the very worst of what marriage could be, and I'm like, that is not what obviously I ever wanted to be involved in. But like you were saying, I still wanted to be married. I still had that dream as a little girl. As you know, growing up, I was very, very I took care of myself, very self-reliant, but knew that I wanted to find somebody kind of that match that, I guess. We were both very independent people when we did meet. Like we could take care of ourselves. We've been working our entire lives, and find somebody with that same drive. And kind of like Ben said, you know, I did have friends that had parents that had great marriages, and it was like, wow, this is what a family can actually look like. And I think for our children and for us, we've taken that and we always tell ourselves like we're breaking the mold, like we're breaking all these generational curses. We're going to give our kids the life that we didn't have, not even, you know, materialistically. Like, yes, they have things that we definitely didn't have growing up, but the love, comfort wise, and seeing the way we treat each other and speak to each other and help each other. And just, I mean, that as a whole, I think, you know, it's done what I saw growing up, it did more good than harm because I was able to learn so much from it.
I know through marriage, right? You guys start off and you get married and you have kids and stuff like that, and things happen in marriage, right? How have you guys been able to adapt through everything? Like what did you guys do to communicate, talk about different dreams and different plans and stuff like that? Because I know a lot of times with all these different changes, it really affects the marriage and it causes a lot of tension, you know. And that's one of the questions we always get with a lot of the guests. It's like, man, we're having a lot of issues. I'm like, oh, what's going on in your life right now? And they're like, oh, we just moved, we just did this and stuff like that. So how do you guys handle that, you know, with these big life changes?
We're always like, we always have a plan and we're both in on it. So you know, they got the must be nice crowd, right? They see the material shit, they don't see the comfort. Like the home that we bought in California, I never would have dreamt I could provide for myself or my family, like a home like the one that we now live in, that we plan on keeping as our home, our kids to grow up in. So a home like this, we've been planning for this for years. It's not something we just one day we're like, we're going to go do this. This took preparation, it took sacrifice. Living apart, you know, they would come out for 7 days every 4 weeks. You don't see people paying attention to that stuff. They weren't paying attention to any of that. They'll see the house, they'll see the cars, they'll see all those things that don't matter to us as material stuff. It's comforts for our family. And I think having the plan, sticking together is a huge part. And then believing in ourselves, because neither of us ever would have dreamed that we could have the life we have now. And I'm not talking about where we live, anything. I'm just talking about happiness. We have 2 healthy kids that are awesome. I think believing in ourselves is a big thing, because like where I came from, it was not necessarily like a success story. It's not the life that I saw. My friends that I saw like their lives when I was in like high school, I'm like, that's not me. I could never have that. And I do have that. And I'm grateful for it every day. I don't take anything like in my life for granted at all.
I think, yeah, I mean, the plan is definitely, I mean, from when we first started dating, we were like, you know, like, what's our plan? You know, and we've made so many sacrifices in such a short time, but we've always been on the same page. Like, he didn't just go to Puerto Rico to work and was like, hey, I'm going chasing the storm, like, bye. That was something that we made this decision together. Okay, how is this going to work? How are we going to make this work? This is when we FaceTime. This is when we talk. Even if you're tired, you know, we give each other that time. Even if I'm burnt out with the kids, we're giving each other that time. Like, it's non-negotiable. And when, I mean, we're not perfect, obviously, when that time would start to, oh, you know, he fell asleep in the hotel room, I'm giving the kids a bath and missed his phone call, all of a sudden it'd be like, we need to like hit the pause button because there's something going, like, there's something missing right now. I remember that in Puerto Rico, like hey, I need a little bit more from you right now. I'm struggling here by myself with, with our daughter, but I just need to talk to you for 10 minutes, and then he'd be like, oh crap, yeah, we've working, 16, 18-hour days. And I think being able to talk to each other and not internalizing it, which we both have done in the past too. And now have just learned to be like, okay, wait a second, like there's something going on. Because for me, I know that if you let it fester, right, it's gonna spill over into other things. It's gonna turn into a bigger problem than it was. I'm a talker. I like to talk things out. He was absolutely not a talker, didn't like to talk things out at all when we first got together. So that was a big, learning curve. But, over the years, just little by little, it doesn't happen overnight. And it's still, he still is like, if he gets mad, he walks out. And I'm like, wait, you still have to learn kind of how each other works. And
I don't walk out. Like,
no, not like
but
walks out of the room. Like he's just he's
when,
like, whatever.
Richie, I compartmentalize things. I have such a past. I've just learned to like accept people.
Yeah.
So I can let things go really easy. Like the biggest problem that back in the day probably would have gave me anxiety. I just like, is it within my power to change this or to do anything? Or maybe even if I don't like it, do I need to accept it? Sometimes I usually just try to accept it. And, maybe it's not like a fault of hers. Maybe it's a fault of mine, the way that I'm taking it. Mm-hmm. So that makes it easier for me. I don't have to like talk everything out because especially since like through my sobriety, I've learned to talk myself through things and to play my tape forward. Like, okay, if I press this issue right now, what is the outcome? What is it going to change? Like I can tell she's maybe in like a bad mood or she's all stressed. Like just on the other day, on the day after Christmas, she decided she wants to put all the Christmas shit away like 7 hours after Christmas is over. And not me. We're having a party Saturday night. The house looks beautiful. Let's leave it up till New Year's. Like keep the vibe going. Yeah. So she's roaming around like a psycho. And I'm just like chilling, going, and then she's getting a little edgy, like I could tell she was just irritated. I'm like, well, I'm out of here. Like, and so the little one didn't want to go. And then so she's running around like a crazy person. And I'm like, all right, we're out here. We're going to the movies. She's like, well, I want to go to the movies. She's like, no. You're not invited to the movies. Here and run around the house like a psycho. And then when we come back, you'll be calm. And she was. So I just took my mom, my daughter. We went and watched a movie and came back. And then by the time I got back, she had chilled out.
But that, like I said, like recognizing that in each other is, I think, I know at least I can say that we've come a long way in that as well. And what he was saying, I've learned a lot about him. He's not, going back to what I saw, my parents fought about everything, right? Like they were always going to duke it out. Like there was always going to be words. There was always going to be an opinion. And he, when I would get mad and I'd like try to say something, he didn't have a response. Like he said, he was just like, it's not worth it. Or it's, whatever.
Where you just stare at the TV and she says something that she thinks like was like the bomb she was going to drop and you never even look over because it's fun though. It's not like tense.
Yeah. But I think that just learning and about like what makes you tick, what makes like, how can you speak to each other in the most effective way as possible.
It sounds like you're pretty verbal though. Like it sounds like you tell him what you expect rather than, I know a lot of women kind of get stuck in that whole, I have expectations, but I'm not going to say anything about it. And even men can have that as well. But it does sound like you're very communicative to your husband about what your needs are. Is that true?
So,
oh yeah.
Like in a good and bad, but like, yeah,
I can take it and then I'll answer. Like,
yeah, but no, even like, hey, yeah, I think, yeah, I am not gonna, sometimes I've learned too, like, is this, like he said, is this worth it? Am I gonna regret saying this in 10 minutes when, because like, does it actually mean something? Or am I just saying it because like out of spite or because I'm mad? And still, of course, not perfect. Like but that's something that always like I think about, like, do I really need to say that, or do I really need, you know, I've had to close my mouth probably more than
You got to pay attention to each other too. Sometimes you don't even, you like verbal, right? The communication, body language is like a huge communication for me at home, at work, everything like that. And so communicating so much, she knows like if there's things going on at work where I try not to bring work home with me. I'm a crew foreman right now, so I do bring certain things home with me because that's my responsibility right now. And so she'll know what type of mood I'm in. If I'm in a mood where I'm just kind of over it, or if I'm in like an excited mood, whatever. And then vice versa with stuff going on at home, we bounce everything off each other. And that's a good way to kind of know maybe like, should I tell her what I'm going to do, or should I use an I statement and be like, I think that we should go and do this, or do I just come home with, you know, a boat or whatever? Stuff like that. So there's like a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
And knowing where like your wife or husband, I guess, is emotionally, and all that stuff is a way to play it too, I think. So
yeah, I definitely used to kind of jump David when he'd get home from being out of town and be like, there's all these issues and blah, blah, blah. Cause we wouldn't talk a whole lot about issues while he was on the job because, you know, your job is dangerous. So I didn't want to put that burden on him when he was at work. But when he would get home, it would be like, he would come in, and if he saw my face was hanging a little bit, he'd be like, oh man, like, and that's one thing he didn't really like, huh?
No, definitely not. I had a bad habit of letting the emotional level that she was at dictate how I was going to be. So if I came home and I saw her hanging face, is what I used to call it, right? Then all of a sudden I had a bad attitude. I was pissed. Oh, what's wrong with you? And all this stuff, you know what I mean? And that caused a lot of conflict in our marriage, believe it or not. I've gotten a lot better now with not doing that. I've learned to not, what would that be called? Placating, or it'd be
That's kind of a codependency.
Codependent. We started doing this book and stuff like that. We started learning about different ways to communicate with our spouse and stuff like that. And that was a codependent type of
reaction because you're dependent upon the way the other person feels to make you feel good. So if the other person's feeling good, then you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I even did that at work, dude. Seriously, like I like if I had a lineman, like when I was pushing, and if I had a lineman, he came to work and he had a hanging face, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, "What the hell are you doing here? Why'd you even bother coming in?" I'd tell him. You know, I'd go right into freaking, you know, not nice guy mode.
Yeah.
I'd start be like, why are you here hanging face, dude? We're all having a good time. We're jamming out to Pepper or you know, Can't Kill Yourself or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And you're over here hanging face. Why are you here? And I finally realized that I was doing that with my wife, and I finally found out that was a codependent issue, and I had to make that change. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes like I would have my face, like I would be kind of upset because something happened with the kids. So I wasn't mad at him. I was just stressed from everything that you deal with at home. You know what I mean? But then it would translate into there's an issue with us.
Yeah,
like...
I had the habit of personalizing everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like total opposite. I have a lineman. He is jam up, but I call him 80% angry because we'll like show up and there's like you can tell that the tree trimmers hadn't been there, but it's just like 2 branches this long. He's like, I'm so sick of this. Like, I'm ready to drag right now. And I'm like, hey, let's take 10 minutes. I'm going to go do the tailboard. Let's just chill. And then we'll figure out what we're going to do. We can cancel if you want. I mean, and by the time I'm done, he's already like, I'll just cut him down. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm not the codependent answer.
No,
I don't really let anybody affect my mood, like usually.
Yeah.
Or if we get to that point, I'll have the all right, listen here, like talk with them. I'm like, we're gonna hash this out right now because I'm not gonna have animosity. I'm not gonna deal with, you know, this or that. I'll just put it out on the table. I have no problem with confrontation.
I think a lot of
So when it does come down to that, I have no problem with like just dealing with it and being like, all right, let's move on. Not, you know.
I think Ben has a lot of skills, I guess would be the right word, of
Bow hunting skills.
no,
nunchuck skills.
no, I'm talking about honestly, like all the things that he learned through getting sober, and at rehab and stuff like that.
Coping mechanisms.
Not even
It's kind of how you just deal with, like, how you can like deal with life, like on life's terms. I mean,
yeah, but you like learned so much through different like therapies or like rehab and stuff like that, that I know has taught, like, because he talks about it, right? Like, well, you know, he talks everything out or says it and is very vocal about different things that he's learned, or it has helped me, I think, because I saw this side of like the addict mentality, and then now I get to learn, like, I don't know how to,
what can be done.
yeah. And so like the codependent and the just like those different things that he can work through that I can't even work through, that I don't recognize in myself always, and I don't know how to work through them because I wasn't taught that, or I didn't, you know.
Like when your mom comes, like when
Yeah.
when her mom comes to visit, we have two addicts in the house. We have me and we have her mom, and it's polar opposite of living in your addiction and recovering from addiction. I am in like active, I don't know. I don't go to like meetings and everything like I used to, because like this is my meeting, my family. They'll say, oh, you can't say that. I am so done with like all that part of my life, any type of addiction, anything like that. I mean, we have alcohol in our garage out there. If I wanted to go do that, I have every opportunity to go and do that. It's not even a thought in my mind. And then so when she has an addict family member here, you can just tell, like, it's written on the walls. The anxiety level goes up, and yeah.
And
she is just so anxious from it and everything. And I'm kind of just leaning on the counter, like, yeah, this is how it is. I mean, you know, it's not just her, it's every addict. It's not, I don't take it personal, because
you know how to you deal with it. Like, you've learned so much, you know. I wish I was more of I like to read like murder mysteries. I wish I was more of like a self-help reader, because like everything that he says is like just like out of a, like, it's such good information, which I mean, I feel like it's helped our marriage so much too. I mean, whether he realizes that or not, too, just all of the coping mechanisms and like things that he has learned, it does a lot for sure in the communication.
Yeah, we've definitely experienced that kind of dynamic in our own family as well. Like, even if I'm on the phone with my dad, I have to be very careful with how long I talk to my dad for on the phone. And I usually try to keep it very positive, because there's such a history there, and it can go toxic very fast. But if I happen to have one of those conversations with him, even though I'm aware of what talking to him will do to me, it still kind of comes on me, and it disrupts the whole day. And David can tell when I've talked to him, because it's, you know, I'll end up picking a fight or something because I'm agitated from my father's agitation, you know. And I'm still working on those parts as well. And I'm really trying to work on being nice to my dad too, because there's some resentment. Absolutely. When you grow up with a parent that you feel you're kind of having to take care of them as a child, and then they get older and you're an adult and they're still needing help, but you realize they're a grown adult, they should be taking care of themselves. You kind of get in this funny position, and I can bark back a little bit. But now I'm starting to really tell myself, okay, Jenny, just be nice to him and love him through it, and just accept him who he is. But definitely, yeah, I'm still working on those parts too, because when you have family members that don't have it right and they haven't worked on their stuff yet, it can be hard.
And you see how that could play into me having those codependent issues, where I pick up on her vibes that she picked up from her dad, and all of a sudden I'm allowing that to dictate how I'm going to treat the family or react. You know what I mean? I had a good friend. He's a mentor, and sits on my board. And we were sitting at his house one time. We're working in El Paso. It was cold as hell. We're chilling. We're having dinner and stuff like that. And he comes in and he opens up the screen door, right? And a rush of cold air comes in. And I'm looking at him like, Miguel, close the door. What are you trying to do? Heat up the neighborhood? It's not even my house. And I'm telling this guy that, you know what I mean? And, you know, I was a fair weather lineman. But so he lets his cold air in and then he shuts the door. He's like, what did I just do? I was like, oh, you just freaking warmed up the whole neighborhood, man. And you froze us out. And he's like, oh, no. He's like, what did I do? And one of the guys that was there, he's like, oh, you changed the temperature in the house. He's like, exactly. That's what you have the ability to do as a leader in your family. You have the ability to change your atmosphere. He's also, anytime your freaking frequency, your aura, your whatever it is about you, you know, you have these highs and lows and you allow that to get you low. He's like, your family's going to pick up on that. And then everything revolves around that as well. And I was just like, wow, man, that makes totally sense. Cause that's what I'm doing. You know, when I allow someone to dictate how my, you know, emotions are. So,
and that's why it's so great, Ben, that you're able to kind of be cool as a cucumber.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
You just have to set boundaries, and you have to hold those boundaries, because whether it's dealing with addiction or dealing with people's just personal fault, like I have all kinds of personal traits that people probably don't like, but I am who I am. I try to be the best person I can. And I try to accept people for like certain faults too, but you do have to have boundaries. Like my favorite quote ever is that givers need to have limits because takers rarely do. And that's something that I think about daily. Like every day you're a giver and you're a taker in all situations. Sometimes, like, look at us at work, right? As like a foreman, we're doing our time for our guys. Well, that time reflects our time. So you have to have a certain amount of integrity on how you're going to do your time, how you're going to do your job. Like working with friends is like that's the hardest part about our job is like my crew is tight. I mean, every crew I've been on, I feel like we all get along well. Mm-hmm. And like just recently I had a lineman that had been with me for a while on underground, and we transitioned to overhead, and he just wasn't, I couldn't take my eyes off him.
Yeah.
And I finally just had to tell him, I feel like you're leading up to an accident. And that was something that it was keeping me awake at night. Like, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. The other guys knew that I was carrying him a little bit. And in my mind, I'm like, man, if we could just make it back to underground, he'll be okay. And I just finally was like, I can't co-sign on his bullcrap. If he gets himself or someone else hurt, that'll be on me. And I had helped this guy out 100 times. And the one time that I didn't help him out, that's what he'll remember forever. But I'm okay with that because I feel like I made my decision off facts, and I feel like he made his off emotion. So that's where you have to have like good boundaries and you have to have bad boundaries. Mm-hmm. And if you stick to your guns, then hopefully you'll like maintain whatever respect you're owed, you know, in each situation. Mm-hmm. So you're not acting one way about this, and then the exact same thing, you have a totally different reaction with someone else. You got to kind of keep some type of a mentality, like this is the type of person you're going to be. Don't let everyone sway your reaction or how you're going to handle it.
Now you mentioned that it was keeping you up at night. How did that affect like, was the family picking up on that vibe too, or no?
She knew about it because I would talk to her about it. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't like to be indecisive, but I don't like to make like a permanent decision on something that may be temporary. So I was filling it out. And
I can pretty much always tell though, like if there's something at work, I'll be like, what's going on? You know, or is everything okay at work? Or, you know, I don't know. It definitely changes. He doesn't maybe always realize it, like maybe he doesn't have much to say tonight when we talk on the phone or something like that, right? Because right now he's working out of town. So I'm like, you know, like what happened? Oh, you know, nothing. Like, are you sure you're kind of quiet tonight? And then it'll be like, well, you know, so-and-so this, that, you know, and because he doesn't want to talk about work when we're talking, like when we're supposed to be talking, right? But it carries through, not like.
And when you're working 16-hour days and it's consuming, like my life at the time is 16, 18-hour days, like with a certain, you know, issue or whatever. And then she just has to hear about it like 15, you know, minutes a day, maybe. Yeah, that's like an important 15 minutes to be able to relay like the severity of whatever you're really like thinking about, or how much of my day am I spending thinking about something, and I'm maybe only talking to her for a couple of minutes. So it's good to be like transparent on like how you're really feeling about it. And because people's feelings are important. I care about those feelings, but at the same time, like I'll do the right thing. I mean, or try to do the right thing in personal, professional life. And that's where it's tough, is maintaining those, like your own values, but also being considerate of other people. Like you can only have so many heart to hearts with a person before you're like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for
Definitely.
sure. Kayleigh, how did you like, was it hard for you to approach him?
Not usually. No,
No?
I usually, I don't know. I feel like we're pretty open communicators as far like, I don't mind talking about work. It doesn't bother me. It's such a big part of our life that, this trade is such a big part of our life that it maybe is a little different than, if somebody goes into the office or different, I don't know, this aspect.
Our job is cool is what she's
No.
saying.
I don't mind talking about it because like, I know that I'm his release. Like he could say anything to me, right? You can say anything to me. You can say anything around me. I'm not going to go and tell so-and-so about, I'm Switzerland here, I'm right in the middle. And I like that. I like to be that person for him. Because he's that person for me, that I know as soon as he's done talking about work, like he gives me my time to talk about my day, and what happened with the kids or, what's been bothering me or it's never one-sided. And I think that's what helps a ton is, if I just had to listen to him talk about work and he never asked how I was or never gave me the time of day, then I would be bottling it all up and probably resent him talking about work or being like, I would probably resent it, but I don't feel that because I do feel that he's always cares, if I have something to say, he's not, there's.
Or sometimes when you're like, what are you watching? And she can tell that I'm like,
yeah. Or
you know what I mean? We're like FaceTiming and we've been FaceTiming for like a while. I'm listening, but I'm just kind of like,
yeah. Like, what are you watching? Are you listening to me? Like,
so that happens too. It's not like, it's always like, oh yes, dear. Like,
no.
I mean, the good part is like, she can tell when I'm like, when I don't set my phone on my stomach and
that's on the TV watching. But I think that that helps, I don't mind talking about work because I do feel like I get to share my day as well.
Sounds like you've created like the safe space for each other to go to each other, where I think like in our relationship, he wasn't a safe space for me to go to. Like the dynamic that you're explaining is where the man is always telling me about all of his work stuff, but when I came to him, he was so overwhelmed with what I would say that he would just get angry because he couldn't solve it. So it's amazing that you guys have created that safe space for each other. Of course, that's fixed now in our marriage, but I can definitely say and relate to what you're saying. It bottled up inside of me, and I was just like angry and resentful because he wouldn't listen to anything I was saying, or I would be the last person to hear about the news that was happening in his life. He'd be like, yeah, didn't I tell you about that? No. And he told like his mom, he told like his friends, he told everybody that he works with, and I didn't know a single thing. And I'd be like, what is going on here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of things have changed in our dynamic for sure. But we have to learn, we have to go through that, we have to get that emotional intelligence, and sometimes the only way to learn is by not doing it right. And that's what we did. And, thank God that we're able to change that a lot. I think a lot of times, like when our wives come to us and they want to talk to us, since men are problem solvers, right? We automatically go into try to solve their problem. That's not what they want. They want us just to listen. You know what I mean? And when our wives tell us, no, I don't want you to solve the problem, I just want you to listen. I know for me, I felt shut down because it's like, well, I'm good at this. I can fix this stuff. You know what I mean? And then when I couldn't fix what was going on with her, I got upset and I personalized it. I'm like, oh, well, it's you. And then we had this big old fight, and dynamic was all ate up, and you know what I mean? So I'm glad things have changed.
Yeah, definitely. 17 years, and we're like finally moving into the direction where marriage is functioning in a really positive manner, and it energizes us now, I would say, rather than both people like butting heads all the time.
Yes.
But I also wanted to ask, you said that Ben is currently working out of town, correct?
Yeah.
Do you guys usually put like a time limit on how long he will work out of town? Or do you just kind of play it by ear? I know for us, we wouldn't put a time limit. I wanted to put a time limit. Like I would tell him, okay, but I'm going to have a baby this year and you need to be home to take care of like your hobby and stuff like that. And I don't want all these extra chores with a brand new baby and 2 kids. So I need you home. But a lot of the time we wouldn't stick to that because it's the job. He needs to bring in the money to pay the bills. You know what I mean? But it would add stress onto me. So I'm just wondering, do you guys usually plan out how long he'll be out of town? Or do you just kind of arrange things in your life to where Kayleigh has support?
We definitely don't really put it, we like put rough time limits, I would say, like, oh, like be home. I get it.
Wow.
Not really.
When I originally left, she's like, what do you think? Like maybe 6 months or whatever. And that was like almost 3 years ago.
Yeah. But that was, I mean,
But yeah,
I feel like it's not abnormal for us. I mean, we were talking about this. I mean, we've had a pretty wild ride in the 6 years that, I mean, we met in a different state than we were both from. He was in his apprenticeship. I was, finishing my teaching degree, and he couldn't leave. So I moved down by him. And I mean, with everything happened pretty quick, and like within the first, after
first
finished,
I was driving one day, driving a bucket truck, and she said she was like gonna apply for a job in Wisconsin. So I was like, okay, well, if you're applying for a job, then this is a waste of our time because I can't leave until this time.
Very forward.
And like I told her, I know exactly where I was in what truck. I mean, I told her I can't leave here. Like I am here until this time. And if this is serious, which it seemed like it was, like how long are we going to do this on FaceTime for is kind of how I felt, which is funny because now we've done like probably half of our marriage like through FaceTime.
Yeah, that's like
it
that's
works.
how we started.
Maybe that's
like,
how it works. So good.
That's how we started. We that's how we got to know each other, was really through FaceTime and distance. And then I moved to Texas, and we got married and had our first kid within 2 years.
Yeah.
And then not long after, I guess it was like her first birthday, the storm hit, he went to Puerto Rico. And that way we had no idea how long that was going to be. That was kind of just as long as it played out. And then came home.
It ended up being 6 months.
6 months.
So we saw each other for Christmas,
only twice.
And then they came like right before I left.
That was probably like the roughest, I guess, with a 1-year-old. And we saw each other twice, came home, worked. And then when you had a couple other storms and stuff. And again, that was just as long as the storm lasted. But I think the biggest one is when you left to come to San Francisco. We were in Texas still, our girls and I, and we stayed back because I had a job that I really liked. I was personal training, just really loved it. It was finally kind of found myself. And that was really hard for me because I was like, no, I finally found something where I feel like I'm not just a mom and I'm not just a wife. I'm going to stay, I want to stay here. We've done this before. I got this, the girls and I flew out every 4 weeks, or every 4 weeks for 7-8 days. And we did that for a year. And then
I was done.
Yeah. And
I was done after a year.
He was like, this is, what are we going to do? Because you have we have our house there, we have this, but like, this is where work is. This is where I need.
I think what I told you was like, I'll come home, but if I come home, I'm not coming home for money. Because if money is what we're trying to do and we're trying to build and save, this is where we're doing it. If I'm coming back to, Houston wage and Houston heat and all the, basically working like a freaking slave, I'm not coming back to do that 6-7 days a week. I'll be working 5 days a week and hunting on the weekends. But that's pretty much what I told her was, if we want to save and do what we're going to do, this is where we have to do it.
I'm not the best with change. So I had to sit down and I, was, having my morning coffee, and I'm like, okay, goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, like our plan. What is our goal? What am I manifesting? Like, what am I seeing our future looking like? And
Escalade. That's what she was thinking.
What are we trying to accomplish? And it's gonna can we really accomplish that here? Or do we need to let this go, let this door close, and kind of just see? I'm a planner. I am not a fly by the seat of my pants person. So it gave me tremendous anxiety but the girl we picked up and he came and got us, and we drove and we lived in our RV for a year until we bought our house now. And so we were together, I guess, for then, so like for that time. And then once we bought this house, that's when we had to decide again, okay, he's going to stay up there and work a little bit longer. So again, going back to the question, I guess we never really put a time on it. I think ours is more of like a goal. We put like a goal on it.
It's like a vibe.
Yeah,
because you could
too.
tell like we were done.
Yeah.
Like I was done. Our little one, Leighton, every time she would come, she would be bigger. Every like 4 weeks, I could tell. So I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And then so we got the big trailer, we did that, and then we were getting to the point where I don't know, you like the RV park was fun, but a few of our friends, like we had a gang up there. A few of them like left here and there, and it just like
yeah, we just
like when Jaime left.
Yeah.
My buddy Jaime, like
Yeah.
he was like my roll dog. He went back to Arizona, and then it was like weird.
Yeah.
And then like my other buddy Connor, he wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And then the RV park, it wasn't the place, it was like the people.
Yeah.
So the vibe changed there. And then my work right at that point, my work shifted. That was like a whole nother, it just seems like things kind of fall in place sometimes if you like pay attention.
If you pay attention, that's
so we were done with the RV.
Yeah.
And then we ended up finding this.
And right now we just we have a good flow. And I think that if at any point, I was like, I'm done. Like, I need you to come home. I'm done. I can't, it's too much or whatever. Or if he was just like, I'm done. I don't want to be up here, yes, like on a really good job right now, but I want to come home. We would respect that out of each other as well. And like, okay, but come home.
We also plan when that happens, it's right back to local 47, like where I started. So like, that's our backup plan, right? Yeah. When I'm done, I'm in a really good place with work and the company and the work I'm doing. So I don't just want to be like, oh, I'm out of here. I mean, we're doing good. The work's doing good, but we planned this, that when we're done, I won't need to travel anymore.
Yeah. Like that's why we bought.
What we came here for is right in our backyard.
Yeah.
So
that's our end game, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of our plan, I guess. And like our
no more working where we don't live was like the idea of like buying this house. Yeah. If we want to make the money, we want to do like whatever we want to do.
Plan for our future and stuff.
That's where we live now. It's not Dad has to leave when we want to go do certain things, or when you want to work in a livable climate, and so everything kind of has the crazy part though about like that story is that the whole time that's unfolding, you probably have people like on social media watching, and people who don't even know you kind of like watching and just judging like your decisions and seeing certain things.
Yeah. People ask me a lot, like, how do you do that when Ben's gone? Or the the crazy
in the trailer.
Like, or
people are like, you guys live in an RV?
Yeah.
Like,
or just even like, oh, like you trust him when he's gone, like, or just all this, like, people.
Have you met him?
I just, I think that, I don't know, like having that plan and just like knowing that, like, yeah, this is part of our plan. We're in this together. Like, he didn't just say, hey, I'm leaving and going and working up here. I'll see you next weekend, or I'll see you 2 weekends a month. Like,
and I couldn't do it without her. Like everything we've done and built, like you couldn't do that I wouldn't have done it as like a single dude. I definitely couldn't do it as like a single parent or without a supportive wife. So, everything like that we've done and that we have is like things that we did. It's not, I don't know. I hate putting like a monetary value on anything. Mm-hmm. That's usually how people look at stuff, right? That must be nice people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's why I always try to like, vehicles are comfort to me, like experiences are comfort. It's not,
necessity.
Yeah, that's what makes like social media hard too. You don't ever want to be like you're flaunting. You just want to be like, this is my life, like for people who really do care. Yeah. So
I also think too, I don't know, Kayleigh, are you still at home with your kids? So I've been a stay-at-home mom for quite some time. That's not necessarily how I always dreamed things would be and stuff. And I always kind of wanted to do things, find something to fulfill myself as well. Kind of how you're talking about, you're doing personal fitness training and you're excited about it because it kind of fulfilled that other part of you, not just the mom, the wife part. But I think people also look from the outside and they see us as stay-at-home moms with these men that are bringing in a good monetary amount. So that way we can start building a life and stuff like that. And then they think it must be nice to just stay home and get taken care of. But there's so much work that a stay-at-home mom to a lineman has to do. You have to be self-reliant and resilient to be able to do it all. And, there's all these questions about, well, he's out of town. Do you trust him? All these different things that come up that people have insecurities that they can project on you and stuff like that. And those are pressures in of itself too, but just keeping your mind on your marriage and knowing that your marriage is good and secure and stuff like that, and knowing the truth about how hard you work for everything that you guys have earned together, I think really helps a woman's state of mind in that situation as well.
I agree. It took me, I feel like right now, like in the last couple of months, even since we moved into this house, that since the summer, that I've felt the most at peace with being a stay-at-home mom, because I struggled like hard. I mean, I had been working and supporting myself pretty much since I was 14. I moved out when I was 17, and like I never ever imagined not working. I love,
You never told me anything.
Such a lie. I never imagined not working. So when we had our first daughter, and he was like, I think you should stay home. We don't really have any family here in Houston. I don't trust, we didn't know what to, we didn't trust anybody necessarily.
She was supposed to go back to work, and then I could tell that she was like digging it. So
it was just,
that sounded really bad.
Yeah.
I think you should stay home.
Well, no.
I noticed the bed wasn't made when I got home.
That's not
change around here.
He was just inviting, because he knew that I just thought I was going to go back to work. And so he invited, we make enough money, you can stay home, it's all good. And honestly, from then, I was, oh gosh, maybe I'll go back and work part-time, and maybe I'll, go and be like a teacher's aide. I have my teaching degree, but maybe I'll just go be an aide part-time, or
she's
maybe
still,
I've gotten better.
This week, she's like, hey, a friend of mine is gonna be working a bunch of overtime, and I might help out babysitting. I'm like, are you crazy? My mom is in town. We're going to Disneyland. We have Christmas. We have this.
That wasn't to make money though.
No, yeah, just to help out though. But
that's just because I want to be helpful. I'm talking
y'all have to have limitations too, because you do so much. It's not like you're just sitting at home chilling. And I don't think she realizes how much she does sometimes. So that's the point of that story was me telling her dude, you keep the house immaculate. You do everything for all of us. Where are you going to fit in time to do more?
Yeah.
So there's that too, where I don't know. I think people's misconception about what a line wife, come and stay with us for a few weeks and see it's a full-time gig.
Yeah.
So
it is. You're working 206 hours a week as a line wife. No, just kidding. With no days off, no paid vacation. Just kidding.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm definitely, I've come to realize how much that stay-at-home moms, and how much I do, that I don't need to bring in a paycheck to prove my worth. And he's never made me feel that way, which I'm again thankful for. I know I do have friends that stay home and how much, somebody had asked me oh, does Ben ask you how much you spend on groceries? I'm like, no, what? Oh, so-and-so wants to see the receipt to make sure that I'm not overspending on groceries. I'm I'd tell him to do his own grocery shopping then, or, make the meals, or figure,
that wouldn't last very long.
Yeah. That I think
100 trip to Costco, it's over, dude. This house with diabetes, dude.
But I definitely struggled with it for a little while, but now I think I feel better about it.
Yeah, I think if you've worked from a young age, like I did, I still carry some guilt for staying at home. It's not necessarily anything that he does. It's just my own thing. I grew up in a feminist type of culture, so I'm really trying to break those things off of me to have a better view, because it's kind of harmful to what I thought my life would be. And I live a great life, so there's no reason to feel that guilt. You know what I mean?
Your kids probably profit from it too, right? That's the other part is decisions that we make and that y'all make, that's a direct reflection. I don't know. I feel like in marriage, everything we do, every decision is like a stone dropped into like a chill pond.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is just going to like radiate out. And
Oh yeah, definitely.
like when people do have their opinions or whatever, I mean, I know our kids have a better life and they're in a better place than they would be if, you know, if she was going out to work, like to fulfill like some type of need or whatever. So I'm grateful that
100%. Like I love all the things that I can do for the kids. Go on every single field trip, take them to every single sporting event, be there to watch every sporting event, to volunteer in the classrooms, take them cupcakes for their birthdays. I mean, all the things that I can do. When I did work full time, there was a tremendous sense of guilt even then because I wasn't involved in my kid's life. So it was like I could never balance it, but now I'm finally starting to just really settle into that. And I think it's going really good, which is good.
You guys, I wanted to ask you something before we get off here. What is something you can share with a young married couple that they can partake from, as far as like if you ran into your guys' self, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, what would you tell your younger self, like
For marriage.
For marriage.
Marital advice.
I know mine.
I don't mind.
Do you go
Good.
first? No. I would tell myself that you have to be confident in yourself and know yourself before you can give yourself to a marriage. Yes, I want to be married or know what I want. If you don't know yourself and the limitations you have, or your faults, especially, I think that it can cause a lot of conflicts in a marriage. And being self-aware and knowing that beforehand, or even learning it quickly, or having, realizing that like during a fight, like, oh, this is actually coming from somewhere else inside of me, is like probably the key to, I don't know, communicating and being successful.
Like Joe Rogan says, even in life, don't read the comments. People are so concerned about what people think about them and maybe what they're lacking, that it really does affect you. So when I wanted to be a lineman, the guys I was hanging out with, they were already linemen. They already had houses, they already had cars, they already had all these things that I thought that I wanted, and I didn't know how I would ever get them. It's because they were at a different level than I was. And now I find myself that I'm at that level. There's guys below me they are the younger friends. They're the ones that don't have the stuff I have. They don't have the job. So instead of letting them look up and feel like they're less, I mean, you just you remind them, like, I've been there before. I was that guy and this is where I am now. And I feel like marriage, same thing. Just keep it tight. Don't care about what anyone is saying, what people are chiming in on. Usually if they're not saying, hey, good job, right on, then they're probably not supporting you anyway. So, but they're always watching. Thanks, they're always watching.
You're always going to have critics.
Yep.
All right. Well, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing on this portion of our broadcast. You guys are awesome. Congratulations on your new home. And we're happy that you guys are finally back here in Southern California, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we'll be talking to you guys soon, and thank you for coming on. If there's any way that people can get a hold of you, I always like to give our guests the opportunity to share with our audience, if you want to, how to get a hold of you there, Ben or Kayleigh, whatever.
Working Class 013.
Right on.
Awesome content.
Right. Mine is a.holmes18.
Right on, guys. Thank you so much for coming on here. And once again, we'll be talking to you guys soon. Thank you.
All right. See ya.